Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
And I'm the nerd with the mouth, David.
Alliance Assemble,
Assemble.
Volume 243. And we are about to begin the final episodes of this iteration of What If, and a surprise trailer that we didn't necessarily see coming. So we actually have some news on a holiday week.
Yeah, nice little out of nowhere drop. I'm here for it.
Yeah, so Happy New Year. We are ushering in the first new episode of 2025. For those of you listening to tons of podcasts, I'm sure you're going to get really tired of hearing that phrase with every single new episode that comes out within this month. So why not add to your earworm? That's going to be just like you start like developing a little tick every time you hear it.
I mean, you have to say it at least within the first week or two. You have to say it.
Exactly. So, but yes, Happy New Year. How was your holiday week there, David?
It was quiet, which is what I prefer. Other than it sounding like a war zone outside for about 5 minutes, other than that, it was all good.
Yeah, we it was quiet for here. I don't think we had too many fireworks going off. I think our area is more for Fourth of July than anything else, but I did hear a few here or there. So. But yeah, so we don't have too much to talk about tonight, but we're gonna spend some time, most of the time, looking at the final three episodes of What If, and then we'll break down the trailer. We got some questions coming in from you all listeners, so let us do what we always do with the network plug. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network with 6 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance network on Twitter at GUAPod Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers. We've got our dollar tiers, our tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job, and then our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episode, and Patreon exclusive shows. We have 2 shows that we've done for Marvel Alliance on the Patreon. We can watch this all day. The Marvel Alliance Infinity Saga rewatch, where Brent and I rewatched all the Infinity Saga in chronological order and reviewed those. And then we wrapped up our recent series, Tales from the House of X, where we looked at our favorite movies from the Fox era of X-Men. So hopefully you're enjoying those. We've got the DC Alliance guys doing their DC films through the years. We've got Joe and his Multiverse Minutes with his Disney Dives on the 1st and 15th of every month, looking at the animated movies from Disney in chronological order. So he will never run out of content for that for a long, long, long time. So.
Yeah.
Definitely enjoying those, and as always, a lot of back content. But we want to thank our patrons. We can't do this without your support. And if you're not a member of our Patreon, you can go to www.patreon.com/UA Network so you can join our Patreon. But if you can't join us on Patreon, totally understand. But if you would take 30 to 90 seconds, you can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcast. We greatly appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for our omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world. Earn points to earn free books later on. We've got their new pre-order catalog is live, looking at some new omnis. X Factor by Peter David, Volume 4, closing out his illustrious run on the title. Spectacular Spider-Man by Buscema and J.M. DeMatteis. Wolverine Goes to Hell, coming back into print, and New Warriors, Omnibus, Night Thrasher, and Nova. So use that code MARVELGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. You can use it a limited amount of times. We want to thank them for being our official sponsor. All right, so what do we got going on in the chat? We got a Fifth of Gaming saying Happy New Year. Sorry, I have to hurry up and do my comics homework up. You got a little bit of time. And then Andrew Haley in the chat, Happy New Year. Hope you all are doing well. Hope you are doing well as well. Andrew.
Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year. So, all right, so we are going to dive into the final 3 episodes of the final season of What If, starting with episode 6, What If 1872. So This one I was looking forward to just because in just the idea of what happened with last year with What If. I think it was 1602.
Yeah.
They did. I love that run, but I thought it was a good episode. So in 1872, I said, "Oh, now you're speaking my language." Looking at the looking at the Old West, and we've got What If the Watcher disappeared, and then What If. So these final three episodes, non-spoiler thoughts. What did you think of that? Did What If season 3 stick the landing?
Uh, I feel like what season 3 overall was not where I wanted it to be, but it was still good. And I say that in I felt like for this being the final season, go out with a huge bang, ripple effect. But even without that huge bang and ripple effect, I felt like these, especially these last three stories, were some good stories. The last two episodes are closer to a two-parter, so I will kind of clump them together in my non-spoiler assessment, just saying it went out with a bang, just not with a ripple. And but this episode 6, had a lot of cool and fun moments from some characters that haven't got a lot of love, and a antagonist that I did not think would get a mention as much as they did. So overall, I enjoyed the episodes. I just wish they would have left a bigger ripple on the overall Marvel universe.
Yeah, it's kind of like we kind of said with the first 5 episodes. Towards the end of those first initial episodes started to look like they were heading towards a direction, and then this one these last three definitely went out with it ended up more of a higher note than the way the season began. It's almost the way I said it last week, the way this last season ended and the way it was built, it was all ending on like having some really solid episodes for the most part, almost every single episode. But this one just, it almost was like, it makes me wonder what was left on the table, with other ideas,
Yeah.
and makes me also wonder in the sense of could this would the show have truly been welcomed if it was just truly every episode was a bottle episode? Did they have to have a through line going through it with this eventual conflict between Uatu and the Eminence?
Yeah. I wondered that as well. My ending thoughts, and I thought upon it today, going back and rewatching some stuff as I was gathering some notes and getting ready. And this will tie into Fact or Fiction later, but I did feel like maybe this would have been better as a bunch of separate special presentations instead of a through line and having to tie everything together. I felt like it could have been we don't have any major projects going on. Here's a little something for you to look forward to tie you over. You can increase the length of some of these stories and just let them be special presentations rather than having to force that thread to continue through.
Yeah. We've got Julio in the chat saying Marvel really wants to move on from the multiverse. And Drew Haley's got a few ones of the last 3 episodes. This one is my favorite, even though it was fine with some cool moments. And as a final season, it felt scattered. Its focus doesn't really always reach its full potential. It has some really good moments, but overall, just an okay season. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily put it as any sort of dumpster fire. I've seen far worse at that point. To be fair, we say that this is the end of kind of the What If at this point, but not really. We continue What If in October with Marvel Zombies, the 4-episode series with that. So What If kind of continues to live on this year later on with Marvel Zombies. So that'll be an interesting kind of continuation spin-off from What If gave us with that one single episode. So, but yeah, let us take our first ad break before we get into the spoilers for all 3 of these episodes. So listeners, as you know, these ads keep, if you haven't seen What If season 3, the last 3 episodes, take a pause, come back. But if you're ready to be spoiled, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud, so give it a 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, so What If 1872? So, like I said, I'm a huge Western fan, so you already got my attention. with this one, but what an interesting pairing. Shang-Chi and Hawkeye Kate Bishop.
Yeah, did not when this was first announced, did not see that coming. And then going up against a posse led by John Walker. So I felt like it was an interesting pairing, but they did have a good dynamic and they did play off of each other very well. So I like the fun of Shang-Chi. He, just like in the movie, he has his serious moments, he has his comedic moments,
Mm-hmm.
just like the actor as a whole who can do both. So it was an interesting pairing. I do think Hawkeye Kate Bishop works better in this time period. So she's able to still have those moments or shiny pistols at one point and everything else. So
Yeah.
she fit perfectly in this time period. She had the look with the hat with still the purple accents on her cowboy outfit and everything else. So I really like this pairing.
Yeah, and it's nice to have them both voiced by their respective real life actors. Haley Steinfeld and Simu Liu. It was good seeing that, and you know what? Even seeing Wyatt Russell, come back just for a quick little bit, right?
Yeah.
But even just seeing the movement, seeing what they're doing. He's Shang-Chi's looking for his sister who fled to America, Zhu Zhangling, for a better life, but he's searching for it, and Kate Bishop's looking for the Hood for killing her family. And this really, we said it last week, this really brings up these episodes were produced with the idea that Ironheart has already come out
Yes.
because no one has a reference to the Hood, and the only reason you and I have a reference to the Hood is because we know we know everything that's getting ready to happen with it. It's been pretty public knowledge that the Hood is the main villain of Ironheart, but no one really knows what the Hood is.
Yeah, if you're not an avid, and I do mean an avid reader, because the Hood is not one of your villains that pop up quite often. It's not
Yeah.
that general audience. It's not the Kingpin or somebody like that who you would have a fleeting knowledge of. So if Ironheart hasn't come out yet, or if you're not an avid reader of some of these stories, you would have no idea who the Hood is and why all of this ties together.
Yeah, and so when I heard that, I was like, all right, now you're just really, and it's unfortunate in the sense, but we'll see. Maybe it'll get that idea, but they go, after they take down, discount, Captain America at that point. They're searching they always feel like the Hood is always one step ahead of them, and they come to a decimated township, and they're behind again, and they meet a boy, Zhui Zhengfan, who claims the Hood attacked and left on a train. Now, this is also a comic callback because that kid talks about, like, later on saying he's got an iron fist. That's not a tip of the hat.
Yeah.
He was the Iron Fist before Danny Rand.
Yes.
So that is a really cool kind of, it's not just there. It's like, no, we're paying homage to the legacy of the Iron Fist.
Yeah, he shows his adaptability with different forms of martial arts and really driving home that feeds it for later.
So they're trying to believe him, saying, or the train is like, what? They start following these tracks to see, like, maybe he's got something there. And they do find this kind of ghost train, and it's interesting. What's the train being powered by? Do you remember what it's being powered by?
All right, I can hear you immediately.
Oh, okay. Do you remember what the train's being powered by?
No.
Stark Tech, arc reactor.
Yeah, so I did find it interesting. Walter Goggins being the bad guy. I love him, and his voice just fits that Wild West bad guy feel.
Yep.
So having him on there, and then the train full of munitions and abducted immigrants and everything else, and him being the ghost train, trying to get them back to the hood with Sonny Birch. It was, I feel like he was a more important character in that moment than the hood.
Yeah, it's interesting how you bring back a minor villain from Ant-Man 2 just to have a big part in this episode. I mean, like I said, I'm with you. I'm a big fan of Walter Goggins. I've loved him in pretty much everything he's been in. He's a great character actor. He was outstanding in Fallout. He's having a moment right now, and it was great seeing him because his accent, his mannerisms are just perfectly captured here. But when they are able to get to where they're going with it, we get some revelations where the Hood is not who they think it's to be. It's actually a corrupted Jai Ling who killed the original Hood and stole his powers. And
Yeah.
so, what the Hood is this cloak that is shrouded in mystery brought on by some devilish people in the Marvel universe.
Yeah. So Xiling has this thought process that she's going to take this power, become the new crime lord, and liberate the Wild West so that what happened to her and her family won't happen to anyone else. And having the evil sister trope again, in this instance, it works. I would say that in any other storyline, it would be an overused trope. But for these two, especially considering the fight scene between her and Shang-Chi, it works having this sister turn out to be the Hood and her motivations for being the new great liberator.
Yeah, especially, he's saying, wait a minute, you're enslaving our own people, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh,
And
she's liberating them. She's freeing them through slavery.
yeah, that's not how that necessarily works. But how about Sonny Birch using a interesting hypnotic device that he got from, where is this device? Where are they tipping the hat to this device that he's using to mind control not only the towns they liberate, but also Hawkeye?
So he's saying that he locks her in a hypnotic trance and admits to killing the parents, stealing their fortune to fund the Hood's army. And I felt like in that moment, like he was the bigger bad guy. And this whole feeling that he's really the overall mastermind of all this, even though we've been talking about the Hood the entire time. When he starts with the hypnotic suggestions and the revelations that he killed his parents, and he locks her in that hypnotic trance and starts doing the whole exposition revelation that villains do. I was like, okay, again, it's one of those, this is a trope, but this is a trope that serves this story, and it just worked.
Yeah, and he got that kind of device from someplace in Russia. Maybe some Black Widows, as it were.
Yeah.
It was interesting, but when she's able to, even what's going on in the background as the train's moving along, we almost forgot about our little guy, Kwai Jean Fan, who's trying to get onto the train and hold on and try to help the team out, and he's getting to a point where he might get killed, being chased down by some of the men. And who comes to his aid and interferes?
Let's see.
You remember who comes in and interferes? Can you hear me?
All right. Sorry, you were going in and out. Say that again.
Oh, okay. I was saying, do you remember who comes in and interferes to save our little guy on the train?
No, remind me.
That'd be the Watcher. The Watcher
Yes.
is one who just pushes the other guys back, so he gets a little bit of a breathing room, so he can save. So he interferes again.
Watcher does not be watching. Watcher is more of Mr. Interference.
Yeah, but he, who's gonna want to kill a kid? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but what did you think about the fight scene between Shang-Chi and his sister?
I thought that animation wise, it was very good. You know, he had the whole "I'm going to refuse to fight you" situation, going back and forth, trying to talk her out of it. My only problem though was, again, and I've mentioned multiple times in this episode, of them using stereotypical tropes with these team up movies. I did not like the Hawkeye being forced to kill the newly corrupted Hood and things like that. That one just seemed kind of, was that necessary?
Yeah, it seemed kind of out of nowhere. Who knows? Especially when the show's really not going anywhere at this point. They could have gone in different directions, but she honestly didn't know who it was. She just saw the hood and just took him down at that point. So it gives a little bit of Shang-Chi forgives her in the sense of like you didn't know any better, and hope the hood flies off to be corrupting someone else
Yeah.
down the line. And so we see the people return, Zhao Fan with the immigrants right off in the sunset. And so, but at the end, we see the Watcher getting captured by the Eminence for basically, interfering one too many times. And when he slammed against the kind of the wall of the mirrors where you can kind of see these other universes, some shards from the observatory spill out into the multiverse. So we're just left with, oh God, what is going to happen next?
Yeah, so the Eminence, the Executioner, and the Incarnate show
Mm-hmm.
up to say, "Hey, your job has been to watch, and you have been doing more than watching." And in their quest to grab him and make him atone for his sins, they pretty much break shards of the multiverse out there.
Yeah. So that was what if 1872. So let's head into what if the Watcher disappeared. So the episode opens very differently. It is black and white, and it's not the Watcher anymore. That's it. It's the, like you said, the Eminence, the Incarnate, and the Executioner, changing up the dialogue of how it's how what if has started.
Yeah, they're in control now. So instead of hearing Uatu's voice, you get a different start. I thought that was good, leading out of Uatu's capture to now have them doing the narration, having the Eminence take over the Watcher's narration, confirming that the Watchers are sworn to protect and sworn to watch, and this is what they're doing now.
And so we do see this team that kind of, we could say, like Uatu kind of assembled, that encompasses Captain Peggy Carter, Kahori, Birdie the Duck, who we just literally introduced, and who, feather colors changed because when we left Birdie the Duck had blue feathers growing on, so feathers changed at that point. And we get a Mjolnir wielding Storm, and they're basically stopping multiversal incursions at that point, preventing these interdimensional universe eaters from attacking different areas. So we see them coming in and saving Earth 625, and it's interesting just how they arrive, especially with. Did you notice the ship that Captain Carter arrives in?
Kang's time sphere.
Yeah, Kang's time sphere. Yeah, remember Kang? Remember when Kang was a thing at one point?
Yeah. So they arrive at the Earth where Nebula is Nova Prime, and
Mm-hmm.
they show up in the time sphere, and you know here to take on an interdimensional squid monster known as Hydra's Champion. A little call
Yeah,
back to What If season one.
exactly. Yeah, you can't. She's got a bone to pick with that particular creature at that at that point. Yeah, and Karen Gillan returning for a very short stint as Nebula again, and after preventing that disaster, they see shards from the Watcher's observatory come crashing down where they're at. Isn't that convenient? And I will say this about Birdie the Duck. perfectly animated to resemble Natasha Lyonne.
Yes, the hair, everything. So it it's a good casting. It's something that when I found out she was going to be in it, I was like, all right, who's she going to play? And this fits. I'm surprised that they got someone so big and put her in this role as her first introduction to the MCU, but it just works.
Hey, and she's got two MCUs. She's going to be Birdie the Duck and some sort of casting in Fantastic Four First Steps that we have not been officially notified about. So it'll be interesting to see. I know a lot of people are saying I think it's either a toss up between Herbie and Alicia Masters.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see, or it could be someone completely different. So the team resolves that they're going to try to figure out what's going on with the Watcher at that point and trying to help him. And they're trying to go to the fifth dimension, but they're even though Captain Carter says this is what we're going to do, the team's like, yeah, we're not allowed to be in there. We can't go in there. We're not Watchers. That's
Yeah.
like their dimension. We can't do
That's
this.
the observational plane, and we are not watchers.
So they have two different attempts to try to get there using the shards. And the first one is to put it into the ship, and Birdie kind of leads that charge, but unfortunately doesn't get them anywhere. And then Storm ends up trying to, call down all her cosmic abilities and her mutant abilities to send them there, and that also doesn't work. And they come up with a third idea that is pretty much what are you thinking this idea? And so what is the possible plan to get some help from someone that probably you wouldn't think would be on the top of my list?
They go to the only person who they know has successfully gone to the observation plane, and will reach out to Infinity Ultron.
Yes, returning voice by Ross Marquand. Yeah, and they rehash exactly what is done, and he, in this Infinity Ultron, took out everything. Well, he won, but in this time, since the Watcher has been captured, he just kind of shut down because he didn't hear the Watcher, so he's just kind of there in the quietness of nothing. And so interesting callback. He does agree. They agree to use TVA equipment to prune him should he go rogue. How about that little drop? We've got these
Yeah.
pruning bombs in case he goes rogue.
Yeah, if something goes off the rails, they can just destroy everything and pretend like it never happened.
Yeah, so after a heart-to-heart with Storm, Captain Carter goes and resolves to meet with Infinity Ultron alone, only to be captured by the Eminence. Noticing Carter's missing, Kahori, Birdie, and Storm confront Ultron, who they think took out Captain Carter. But even during the fight, it's like, no, I didn't do it. You're wrong. There is no peace without life, and concludes that he made a mistake in extinguishing all life in his universe.
Yeah, he took out too many people, and now it's just him. You should have stopped at 50%.
Maybe Thanos was right. So, though he says it's too late for his redemption, which he's not looking for any redemption, he's willing to atone for his actions, takes the shard, becomes even more Infinity Ultron, Watcher Ultron, I don't know, before agreeing to take them to rescue Captain Carter and the Watcher. And that's where this episode ends. Like you said, it's a good two-part. It's a good lead into what it is. This team that they assembled. Carter, Kahori, Birdie the Duck, and Storm. Quite an interesting group. And I'm not sure if it was this episode or the next episode, but they label them the Exiles.
Yes, which
A
is a tie to the comics. There actually is a group called the Exiles, and there is a chance that hopefully we are able again. While this may be the end of What If, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of these characters. So we may get a chance to see the Exiles again.
Yeah. I might have missed your when you first came to this, Julio. He said they told the same story almost. They could have told a better story. Are you referring to a certain episode, Julio? Sorry, I missed it when you put that in the chat. Um, and you know, the Exiles, great comic series. We may do it for a comic book club at some point. I've always wanted to revisit it at this point. You know, looking at different individuals from the multiverse that really, you know, one could say it's very much could be like, you know, CW's Legends of Tomorrow, these misfits going through time and trying to prevent disasters from occurring. So, an interesting assembly. I'm just glad we get to see you know, Thor Storm. You know,
Yes. Willing all of her cosmic powers and having incredible hair while doing so.
exactly. So yeah, so let's head to the final episode. What if? What if? So in a flashback, we get no title sequence at all in this episode.
Yeah. No,
We
no
get
intro, no voiceover.
nope. So in a flashback, we see how the Watcher basically became anointed. We get his name, even though we known his name this entire time, Uatu. Recruited to become a full Watcher by the Eminence. In the present, the Watcher is placed on trial for his repeated interference, such as giving Doctor Strange Supreme information that he needed to recreate his destroyed universe, saving Riri and Kwai Fan, including involving Captain Carter in his affairs. Also makes reference to him saving a variant of Reed Richards, Nick Fury, and Madison with two. What is it? Madison with two Y's and one N, but not where you
Yep.
think.
Yeah.
So we just
She's
had to get that in.
she ties the multiverse together. You cannot have a multiverse without Madison.
Yeah,
Now
that was it.
I do have a question. So
Yeah,
this whole thing is based around Uatu breaking his oath. But at the beginning of the episode, he never technically says the oath. He says, I guess I should probably take the oath then. And
yeah,
then the Eminence says, you already did. But he never actually says the oath. So,
yeah.
I mean, that could be a loophole to, I technically didn't break a rule because I
Yeah,
didn't
you're right.
swear that this is what I was going to do.
Yeah, if we're going to be going on trial here, yeah, I never really took the oath. You just said I did, and we just accepted it, and all my
Yeah.
powers became to be because he granted them to me.
Yeah.
Yep, you got him on a technicality there.
So,
So, yeah, you got a point. But yeah, the Watcher and Peggy Carter are, you know, it's revealed that she's there, and just like, why'd you come to rescue me? But they, you know, their execution is stayed because in comes in their saviors, led by Infinity Ultron, who basically is trying to give we're going to still call them the Exiles, cover while he tries to distract and delay the Eminence, the Executioner, and the rest for giving them time to make a plan and get out of there because he knows he's not going to be successful. They're Watchers. They will take him down.
yeah, he says this is what he was programmed for. He knows his part to play in this attack, so he needs the exiles to hold up their end.
So they end up making a decision to head into Stephen Strange's universe. But by the time that they kind of make those moves, Ultron is defeated, and that's when Uatu said we're too late, and all three of them show up and basically take down the ship, and they are like literally kind of just outside his universe, I think, or
Yes.
outside they're in his universe, but like they're not on his Earth yet.
Yeah.
So
So they're trying to get there because with Strange Supreme's new universe, the Watcher's powers will be nullified because Strange Supreme controls everything on a molecular level in that universe. They're hoping that if they get there, then he can just take out the Watchers as a whole without them having to do things, but they are not successful.
yeah, they're not. They are basically they are able to stand a little bit with them toe to toe, but they're just way too powerful. And Uatu comes up with a last ditch effort, saying, "Wait a minute, if you just say the oath, you can become Watchers too." And I'm like, What? That's what you do? If I just say the oath in the Marvel Universe, I can become a watcher with and imbibed by all these cosmic abilities? Wow. That kind of defeats the whole the aura about becoming a watcher.
Yeah. It also reminded me of the scene with Thor and the kids when he imbues them with the power just for that moment so that they can take out Gore. I was like, that's how we do it now? Like anyone can just be
Yeah.
this? Because it seemed like in the beginning of this, Uatu had been training for a while and learning how to be a watcher before all of this
Yeah.
happened. So now you're just like, hey, look, I'm just pass this along. You guys can be watchers too.
It's kind of it's also like Shazam powers. It's one of those things like yeah, you could just give them like it just kind of depletes a little bit, but yeah, everyone could be a Shazam in the Shazam
Yeah.
family. And it just seemed like yeah, it was cool to see them all go full on be their own immense, so they could basically not be wiped out
Yeah.
by the Watchers. But then again, they just got these abilities while the Eminence, Incarnate, and Executioner have been doing this for a very long time. And you basically get this long out, drag out kind of Dragon Ball
Yes, they went
fight,
full Dragon Ball on this with the knocking into the planets, the laser beams, the fast fighting.
cracking the moon.
Like it is just this is full Super Saiyan just into the universe. I'm like, all right, my love of anime is flowing over into my love of Marvel, and I am here for it. And I mean, Peggy was putting on a show with her powers, and we also got in the middle of the fight when everyone was showing off, you get this moment where you hear Captain America's theme for Peggy. You hear the X-Men 97 theme when Storm's really going at it. So I was like, all right, that they're putting on a show here.
Yeah, it was. I mean, again, I'm not gonna lie. It was definitely very cool to see, to see this kind of big fight going on and what they were able to do. It was a spectacle at that point.
Yeah.
But at one point, they're kind of realizing that their backs against the wall. They're not gonna be able to do it, but Captain Carter basically sacrifices herself as they end up. She's going toe to toe with the Eminence, and all of a sudden, like they're able to take him down, and they realize they found a way to get into Strange Supreme's universe. And as you said, he removes their abilities at that point. But Captain Carter did sacrifice herself in order to make that happen. And the Watcher convinces the humble trio to learn that watching over life in this new universe, and that it is okay to interfere, as needed. It's not just one of those things where we're always going to interfere, but sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah. It's a little bit of this is where we should be as watchers. This is the responsibility that we have as watchers to be more than just those who sit around and watch, the destruction of people, the end of life. We can do more.
Yeah. But yeah, and we kind of like leave it at that where, it's where the series kind of ends. Um, the way Brad Winnebaum kind of said, like it brought about like I don't the way I remember kind of him saying it, it's just like they had to end it, but as we kind of go through the next couple of years, we'll see why What If had to end the way it did. It didn't seem like it didn't lead me to anything that where we were leading to next. It just kind of ends.
Yeah, just Peggy's shield getting thrown out into the observation plane, but then as they are doing the final monologue, we do get some interesting
Oh yeah.
shots to end the show. Some very interesting
and,
shots.
and even shots as the exiles are being kind of erased by the Eminence, we see different versions of themselves. So this will be Fandom Wire put together a really great screenshots as we're gonna kind of go through this. And if you're watching on video, you can kind of see this with us. Six Armed Spider-Man, comic accurate. Samurai Ghost Rider, give me that What If episode. I
Yes,
want to see my
please.
Ghost Rider. Reba Williams as the Punisher slash War Machine. A Gamora variant. We
In
get
a wedding
Blade.
dress.
Yeah, in a wedding dress. We get Blade as Moon Knight. That'd be cool. We get Thanos gone Weapon X. You know, people they call it Thanos Wolverine. You know, we just see the three claws.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting. Kingo as Iron Man. Wasp Miss Marvel variant. We get Maestro as Doctor Strange. Maestro's already is your future imperfect Hulk. He's already powerful enough. Now we're going to give him the strange supreme powers. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, incredibly overpowered at that point.
Howard the Duck as Scarlet Witch.
This was a weird one.
Yeah, like every Howard Duck is. Dragon Hawkeye. Interesting. Jubilee as Silver Surfer. Yeah, I want to say, I think our brothers over at Geek First were just kept on saying on their review, kept on saying Dazzler. I said no,
Yes.
this is Jubilee. This is
The
Jubilee.
jacket says it all. The yellow jacket.
Yep,
Come
the
on,
yellow
man.
jacket. Come on, guys. Details matter. Skrull as Captain America. Why not?
With the Wakandan shield.
With the Condon shield, Cersei and Howard Stark in kind of this dancing thing going on. We get Deadpool, but I've heard it as Deadpool, comic accurate Deadpool. I've heard it as Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe Deadpool.
Yeah,
What
I was
have
leaning
you.
more towards Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe.
Hela as a VR game variant, or just really young Hela.
Yeah, so that's Hela, and she's holding Mjolnir. So that was an interesting young Hela holding the hammer.
Yep, here's a cool one: Star Lord with the 10 rings. So yeah, I think the Hela is from the VR game. We see Scarlet Witch variant probably from the VR game. Loki variant comes in. So these are the ones where, as they're being erased from existence, here are some more variants. Kahori as an X-Men. So very
I
much,
love that one. I love that one.
very much like Moonstar, Danny Moonstar. Kahori as Captain America. Birdie the Duck as actually, comicler, not more human, more duck-like.
Yeah.
Birdie as Nova. Storm as Black Panther. Has happened in variants in the past. Peggy Carter as Elektra. That is cool. Peggy Carter as Sabretooth.
Yeah.
So those were some. I mean, I know they probably missed some, but I thought
Yeah, there was
that
an Asgardian version of Captain Carter, which is nice. The Elektra one was my favorite. There was a Black Knight version of Captain Carter. With Kahori, there was an Apocalypse version of Kahori and a Captain America version. And then there was one that I'm pretty sure was Cloak from Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah.
It had the black cloak. That one, I kept trying to freeze frame it, and I just really couldn't tell. And a Nova Corps version of Birdie was also in there. Those were the ones that I could catch. They were moving so fast. I'm like literally frame by frame stopping this, trying to catch
Yeah.
all of the little moments.
So definitely appreciate Fandom Wire for doing the hard work of doing all that. When Julio saying those were missed opportunities to tell stories, and that's what I want to get to in the sense of like they probably had obviously tons of these ideas. They
Yeah.
could literally. This was a show that again you could go full anthology. You don't have to do. I mean, the What If comics. There's only been few versions of What If where they actually follow through. One of the ones recently was done by Chip Zdarsky, looking at what if Peter Parker never gave up the alien costume, which was a What If comic, but they decided to turn it into a mini series to see how far that would go. But that's the idea of What If, is that it's just one-offs just to see where it goes to. There's never been one of those things. And again, animation's cheaper than live action, but at what point do you just become a meme of yourself? Does it get diminishing returns? And it did worry me when AC Bradley said that she was not going to be returning after the second season. The current showrunner of this is going to be is the showrunner for X-Men 97 season 3. That does give me pause just because of how the season went. Um, Again, not bad, but I'm just saying, as much as we've gotten with how well X-Men 97 was for the first season, we know, Bo DeMeo did have some more involvement with season 2 before his pushed out, before he was, shown the door for what he's been accused of. Like I said, it just gives me pause. It gives me a little bit of, not saying that it's going to be this kind of meh season, but this was not the worst outing, not the best outing. It just was okay. This doesn't give me saying, oh yeah, we're gonna knock it out of the park for season 3. It's just like, let's up the game a little bit.
Yeah, I am hoping that Brian Andrews is able to do a little bit more. Hopefully, we get to see some of these characters again, some of these stories again. I don't know how they would be able to fold those in, but yeah, it really didn't give me that much hype leading into the future of some of these characters. Like I said, it was serviceable and it felt like they were putting something out because they had to, and then they had to reach their conclusion. Like we said before, with the Ironheart episode seeming like it was out of place. There were other moments and things like that. It just felt okay. You're getting these in because you're using these characters. You're reminding of us of these characters, or trying to put these upcoming characters out there so that we have a little bit of knowledge, but it doesn't seem to be aligning with a specific reason, which is
Yeah,
also why I say that it could have just worked as a standalone special presentation. Here's we just released Ironheart, and then a couple weeks later, here's this special presentation what if episode involving Ironheart. Like,
yeah.
do something like that.
And the great thing about What If is just like right now, it's over. They could bring it back at any point as needed, but right now, I think they're going to be going in different directions with the animation properties. I mean, Windebaum did say that they are considering for the idea of maybe one day bringing a Marvel animated project to the big screen. That they want to be careful with what they do with it, but it is definitely on the table. He said so. So if I were to rank the seasons as a whole, I would say I would rate this season probably about a 6.57 at that point. My series as a whole rankings would be season 2, season 1, and then season 3.
Yeah, I had it as a 6.5. And I put it at the bottom of the three. Season two was an incredible standout for the Kahori themed episode, the throwback episode. Like, there were so many good moments in season two that I felt like it stood head and shoulders above. But yeah, this seemed to fall flat in a lot of areas. And like I said, it ended with an incredible episode, but it just didn't have that ripple that I was looking for.
Yeah, I think the ending of last season, where Strange Supreme versus everyone at that point, seemed to kind of lead in the right direction. But it looks like Ginger Queen agree a special would have been better. So, but all right, well, let us take our next ad break before we get into Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man trailer at that point. So, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, so let me pull up the trailer. So yeah, this came out at, I believe, the Sunday when the final episode came out of What If.
Yeah, just a random. Here you go. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year drop.
Yeah. So we'd already seen this has been a long gestating series at that point. We've seen it and heard it, and so we knew it was coming out this year. We knew it was coming out this month. So probably this is going to be probably get like one more trailer out of it. But yeah. So this is our first look at your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And if you're watching live, we're gonna have volume down, not blown up at that point to kind of break this down. So let's kind of check this out. I do appreciate, we're looking at the, comic books at that point. The animation style, channeling Steve Ditko's artwork. A little bit of cell shading. Now,
Yeah.
what do you think? What do you think? Is this the comic book paneling? Is this going to be? Is this just for the trailer, or is this looking like it's going to be kind of a gimmick for the show?
I have a feeling that it's going to be a gimmick. I'm just hoping it's not an overused gimmick. Like if this is
Like in the Hulk?
yes, if this is just like a big transitional thing, then okay. But I don't need to transition every scene using the comic book panel style.
So yeah, so we see we're back at high school, Midtown High. It's a modern day spin. So we got Peter Parker and a very eclectic group of friends that he's got at this point, and he's the big nerd, and he's already established himself as Spider-Man. He's kind of piecing out, Parker out,
Yeah.
because kid can just do that and have absolutely no consequences. What do you think about this? This is an interesting first, version, Mark One of the Spider-Man suit at that point. We've seen, what Tom Holland did as his, but this is definitely quite unique.
Yeah, it's unique, but it's not out of the ordinary. I like how he has the little gas pack and the fluid pack on
Yep.
his back. That's where his webs are coming from because yeah, I mean he's a kid. Web cartridge, as stated before in previous Spider-Man's, web cartridges are expensive.
Yep.
So this is his way of getting around. I like the knee pads and just the track suit with a what looks like maybe a hockey jersey with a spider or something, some type of jersey over it. The mask with the goggles that
A la
wrap
Ben Reilly?
around. Yeah, so it gives literally some high schooler who's thrown this together. This gives off very high school science project vibes.
Yeah. So we rescued who we're going to come to find out is Harry Osborn. This is our new Harry Osborn for this universe, and looks to be the criminals, the bullies, are live streaming them beating up people because that's not going to get them arrested.
Yeah, no. Why put evidence on the internet?
All right, here we go again. I'm just saying, he's dead. Spider-Man just straight up murdered a kid. That kid is dead, dead, dead. Morbius was right in that. Spider-Man's a murderer. Mysterio is right.
If this kid isn't dead, he at least has a very, very good lawsuit on his hands as someone there's
Ooh.
brain damage, something. This kid will never be right after taking this vicious brick to the head. And I can only imagine how much a brick would hurt or knock out or incapacitate somebody just being thrown. This is being yanked back with the force of webbing. Like,
Julio saying that I was told that they use Japanese animation companies to make the animation. Yeah, that tracks as well. It's it's just funny. We're having fun with this, but yeah. So webbing him up, and I'm Spider-Man. So on January 29th, I think it's a 2-episode premiere, if I'm not mistaken. It could be 10 episodes, that I do know.
yeah, January 29th is 2 episodes, and after that, it goes to a weekly Wednesday format.
Yep. Oh, thank goodness, Wednesday. Great. And doing a little bit of bullet time action. So we got Oscorp. So it's not Tony Stark that's going to be kind of Peter's mentor. It's going to be, it's going to be Norman Osborn. We got Norman with Captain America there. And we knew that from when the initial of the series, and voiced by who we were just talking about off air. Do you remember? Do you know who Norman Osborn is voiced by?
Norman Osborn is voiced by Coleman Domingo, who I am
Yes.
currently watching in another show, and I absolutely love him in this. So yes, I'm excited for as much Coleman Domingo as I can get.
Yep. He looks as menacing as ever, but he's trying to be, Peter's mentor. And look at this. I know this is not the only suit we're gonna get, but um, we know this in the comics as a Future Foundation suit, but it is not the Future Foundation suit. In this, it is the Oscorp suit, spider suit.
Yes. So instead of getting this from the Fantastic Four, he's getting this from Norman Osborn apparently. But yeah, that white suit is tough. That is just a thing of beauty.
I have never been a fan of the Future Foundation suit. Sorry, it's just not Spider-Man suit. It's just not. I'm sorry. That's one of my least favorite suits, and hate me for all you on at that point, but just not my.
I like the look of the suit. Now I will give you it is not nothing about it screams Spider-Man,
Yep.
but it is a beautiful suit. Like when I'm playing the Spider-Man games on PlayStation, like it is a suit that I like to rock. And but it is not a suit that I would instantly think to myself if I'm reading Spider-Man, like I want to read a story featuring that suit.
Yeah, Julio says, what cool is that is non-canon in the MCU. They say it's not canon in the MCU. Remember, it was supposed to be. It was freshman year. It was supposed to supposedly be Tom Holland, tied to Tom Holland, and then they kind of pivoted and made it Your Friendly Neighborhood. It says not canon to like the sacred timeline. Everything's multiverse. Whatever. I'm glad it's a drop in the bucket. I love, I say this sarcastically, fans are just going to be ticked off about something.
Yeah.
And this week it's going to be ticked off at, oh my gosh, Norman and Harry Osborn are persons of color.
Oh my
Guys,
god. The
ladies
shock
and
of the horror.
ladies and gents, all right? Stop being ticked off about things like this. It's if it's not your tempo, fine, not be your tempo, but it, two characters that it doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter whether they're persons of color. Heck, let's make them gender swap while you're at it.
Yeah.
What does it matter? The essence of the characters are there, and
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's like it works. It works, and I think Colin Domingo as a voice actor for Norman Osborn, he's got it. He's
Yeah,
absolutely
he's
got it as a tycoon of of who we're eventually going to see. I could easily see him being a Green Goblin later on.
Yeah. I will say this as a biracial man in America, raised in a predominantly black household. If you've read Spider-Man and you've checked out Norman Osborn's and those waves and thinks he didn't have a little bit of
Glad you brought it
sauce,
up. I'm glad you brought it up.
my man has been rocking a do-rag since the 70s. Like, it's okay.
Both Harry and Norman with that hairstyle is just like, we're not stretching the term a little bit, calling them white. I said, I'm sorry, I was always wondering when reading the comics that I have never seen that hairstyle on any white person at that point. I'm really not. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
it doesn't exist. I just haven't seen it. So I was always wondering, what is that hairstyle?
Yeah, no, that they are rocking the waves better than most people I know in real life. So I'm gonna go ahead and let Coleman do his thing, and like I'm okay with this. It does not at any point diminish the character as a whole. It
Yeah.
does nothing to change the fabric of who they are or what they represent. So why is this a deal other than someone's own insecurity about feeling like they are being replaced because this one character is no longer how you remember them from 40, 50 years ago?
to oh no, it's not hashtag not my Norman, not my Harry. Really,
Yeah.
there's such a huge fan base, and Norman Osborn being one of the cornerstones of Spider-Man at that point. I don't remember that part of the that part of the character saying he has to be white.
And if you're that much of a fan of Norman and he resonates with you that much that you don't want him race swapped, then I have some questions about you because some of the stuff that Norman has done, that's not really the guy I want to be associated with.
And I love it when they because it happens every time. It's like, oh, we're gonna race swap on Norman. Let's race swap Black Panther. That's not the same thing. That's not the
Yeah.
same thing. So stop it. Also
Yeah.
wrong.
Again, it does not change the fundamental aspects of this character in any way,
Yep.
shape, or form. So what is the harm other than fragile egos and people who just cannot stand to see something that is not them represented?
Yep. But again, and I've said it in our group chat that if this show wasn't already in production, almost done, and X Men '97 had got its due, we would probably see sooner, rather than the wait and see, whether we get Spider-Man '98 or the return of Spectacular Spider-Man. I think there's more of a chance for Spider-Man '98 to come about,
Yeah.
versus Spectacular. Even though both shows are outstanding, you know, it's one of those. Yeah, we got Phil in the chat saying what people are mad about it. Yes, they are. They are,
Yeah.
Phil.
They
Not
they
not
they
not not
they're
as loud
mad.
as the Superman haters these days, but
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so we will, as always, as expected, end of the month, we will be covering your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man every episode on Marvel Alliance. So be ready for that. And, but yeah, so let us take our final ad break for the evening before we get into listener feedback, Factor Fictions, and Comic Book Club. So, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they could be a bit loud, so give it a 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, so I put up the Spidey signal as always, and we got some questions this week. Starting with Anthony Dorsey, writes, "What are your hopes for Spider-Man 4 if it does go in a multiverse direction rather than street level?" I'll let you take that one, David, first.
All right. So I would prefer if it stayed street level, but if it does go multiverse, I want you to throw out all of the Spider-Man stops. Do any and everything that you can. Don't waste a single moment. Bring out every character you can as one big middle finger to Sony to say, look what we can do.
Yeah, it's if rumors are to be believed that Spider-Man 4 is going to take place in between Doomsday and Secret Wars. Yeah, I mean, our it makes it tough in the sense of, we've got animated Spider-Verse that God knows when that last movie is coming out. Um and the idea of a live action version. I mean, yeah, let's go crazy, let's go nuts. If you're gonna bring them back, if you're gonna do multiverse again, you're obviously gonna need to bring back Andrew and Toby. That's that's a given. But let's go crazy. Let's bring back our TV show Spider-Man. Bring him back. Bring in the animated voices. Let's just have some fun. It's but they they need to make a story in the sense of like what Peter's been doing on his own, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that they have to be careful in the sense of if we're going to go multiverse, we can't lose sight on Peter's alone. Peter is finally trying to figure out his own life at that point, and I don't want them getting lost in the shuffle of going full multiverse without having the heart of what that character is now.
Yeah,
So,
they did the balancing high school thing and they did that for 3 movies going into college. Now we need broke boy Peter. I'm trying to balance a job. I have no money. I'm on my own. This is me trying to juggle everything and continue to keep what is probably one of the worst kept secrets in comic book history.
yeah. And that's my concern. It's always been my concern when they said that they wanted to go more multiverse with it. I'm not saying I don't get it, but you left it on such a high note at the end of No Way Home, where Peter is the Peter known from the comics, and that's what just worries me about it. So I hope they can strike a balance. And then Jim Scroggs came in a little bit before we went live with a comic book. He says, talking from a comic book perspective, saying why have there been so many Spider-Man titles like Amazing, Spectacular, Web, Spider-Man, you know,
Superior.
Superior, and so on. Also, is there any specific book you prefer, or is it more of a writer artist? So, very simple answer to your first question. It's kind of like Batman. Why there's so many Bat titles? Because Batman sells, Spider-Man sells, X-Men sells. In the heyday of Spider-Man, yeah, there was Friendly Neighborhood. I remember that with Raringo doing that. That was a great series at that point. Spectacular has been a very much established series, but for me, I like I said, it comes down to it just sells at that point. But I think currently, right now, we have Amazing, we have the Spectacular Spider-Man, we have Ultimate Spider-Man. Right now, I think that's kind of it right now. Web hasn't been around for a bit. Um, Spectacular as a known title has not been around for a bit. But we have like other we have Spider Gwen, we have others, but like one that focus around Peter. I think it's just kind of those couple that are there right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's a lot less books than there used to be with that, but
We
it
have
was
Miles,
yeah, it was always more of a thing where you had your main book, and then when it came to the Spectacular Spider-Man, it was more of a couple of side stories here and there. Superior Spider-Man was when Doc Ock took over and things like that. Now,
Amazing went on a break until it came
yeah,
back. That whole storyline ended.
yeah, Amazing was the flagship for the longest time. Coming out of Amazing Fantasy, where Spider-Man first debuted, it's where you're going to get a lot of your bigger stories of Spider-Man. You're going to get the night Gwen Stacy died and things like that. So that's where you're going to get the bigger stories. Venom, the birth of Venom was in Amazing Spider-Man, things like that. So a lot of your bigger runs are going to be within that. Now, as far as a specific book, if you are just diving into Spider-Man, I would say go back and do the original Ultimate Spider-Man. The Ultimate line was made as a good jumping in point. If you didn't want to have to catch up on years and years and years of history, is a modified retelling, but it is a good jumping in point that you can get the feel of the characters, and it's an easy binge if you're going to do it in Marvel Unlimited or anything like that. Other than that,
Bendis and Bagley just they basically carried the Ultimate Universe for 11 years from 2000 to 2011.
yes, it was an amazing run. Other than that, there have been many good runs with Spider-Man. There's not really a bad point per se to jump in, other than One More Day.
We
One
don't
More
talk about
Day.
that. We don't even mention that in this show. That's the 4 issue storyline that shall not be named. However, I will say this: when Brent and I did cover for Comic Book Club One Moment in Time, that wasn't bad. That wasn't bad.
Yeah. So, but other than that you can pick almost any arc and really jump in there. I'm still a huge fan of the Amazing Spider-Man's run during the original Civil War. It's around issue 530 something, 532 or 533, I think. And that's when he first gets the red suit with the arms, teaming up with Iron Man. Like, that is one of my favorite just go-to runs of Spider-Man, just to pick back up, because I loved his. To me, he was the most relatable character within Civil War, and his bouncing back and trying to figure out where he wants to stand.
Yeah. for me, J. Michael Straczynski's run. I know Brent's a big fan of that one next to the Ultimate line. Even the current Ultimate line with Hickman, Ultimate Spider-Man. It's not a bad jumping on point. Some of my kind of dark, classic favorites, Uncle Roger Stern, and John Romita Jr.'s Spider-Man is a great masterpiece. He introduces they introduced the Hobgoblin. Great story. The kid who collects Spider-Man is a very tale about the hero who visits a young boy with leukemia. Defining work for creators like Paul Jenkins and Chip Zdarsky to take a deep dramatic delve into human interest. Michelini and Todd McFarlane introducing Venom. That's run. I can't recommend Adjectiveless Spider-Man by McFarlane. Good art. McFarlane is not a great writer for Spider-Man. Just not. That's my opinion. Yeah, I mean, there's just look up just like kind of the best runs now. Current runs of Spider-Man. I am not a fan of Zeb Wells for Spider-Man. It hasn't been great in my opinion. I like Zeb Wells on other titles. I just not great. And I know Joe Kelly's taking over when Zeb Wells finishes up. I'm not excited about Joe Kelly taking it on. I just haven't been Spider-Man just hasn't been great outside of Ultimate Spider-Man, in my opinion. It just really hasn't. The last run I really got excited about, Normal Spider-Man, it's been a while. And it's I don't know what's going on at the Spider-Man offices of why they're playing either they're playing it safe or they're making really weird decisions that just don't align with the character. Like, how many times are we going to have everyone just be mad at Peter?
Yeah.
It's just like, come on. I'm not saying we have to have Peter be, not like go back to when he's really everything there, like has everything going for him. But I'm so tired of just like Peter being a jerk to people and people being just mad at Peter for everything that he does wrong.
Yeah. With the exception of Enter the Spider-Verse, which I believe was in 2013, 2014, I haven't really been excited about a Spider-Man main line on its own since. There hasn't really been anything that's truly grabbed me. And I know, like, coming out of Superior Spider-Man, having Spider-Man owning companies and all this other stuff, like, it took away from the essence of Spider-Man. And I feel like they just kind of go back to the well with some old things over and over again instead of finding something that they can really just roll with on Spider-Man. And again, that's a reason why I love the Ultimate line so much. It was a great new telling that involved these characters that you have a fleeting knowledge of, but it was easy to dive into. It's also how we got introduced to Miles Morales, who, again, my entire family completely loves. Yeah. I'm wearing Miles Morales on my shirt right now. So we are definitely a Miles Morales household. So that's how we got our introduction into Miles. So yeah, the Ultimate run is something that I would always suggest people go through.
Yeah. And then the current run with Hickman, taking Peter Parker when he gets his powers as an adult versus when he's a kid. Yeah. So it's a fun run, but yeah. So thank you both for writing your questions and Factor of Fiction. So from last week, number 1, we will see Howard the Duck in live action again as voiced by Seth Green. 73% said fact, 27% said fiction. Second one, we will see Uatu make his first live action debut in Fantastic Four First Steps. 50-50 split. They don't know. We're not sure on that one. Number 3, the first trailer for Fantastic Four Steps will drop during the Super Bowl. 93% said fact, 7% said fiction. And then finally from Anthony, Deadpool and Wolverine will not be in Avengers Doomsday, but will be in Secret Wars. 55% said fact, 45% said fiction. All right, David, you are up this week. So what you got?
All right, first one, and I kind of touched on this earlier, is that What If will return, but as special presentations going forward. So we will and they will be closer aligned towards actual releases instead of things that were made and in the can, and now we just have to get them out, even though we pushed back Ironheart by months. But what if we'll come back as special presentations?
Yeah, I don't know. I know they've said that special presentations aren't necessarily dead right now, but it's not necessarily a priority for them. I think with animation, I think that's a tougher sell to do like kind of a one and done thing. I like the idea of it, but I right now I'm going to say fiction on that. What about you?
I'm going to go with fact. I think they will be longer forms. It'll probably be more like a 45-minute to 45 to 50-minute special presentation. But I do think that there will probably be two or three times when they decide to bring back some characters and use them in that aspect, especially once we start getting around the time of Doomsday and introducing, reminding people of some of these multiverse things so that once you are in the theater, you may pop for somebody that you see on screen because you remember them from a What If episode.
Yeah, so we'll see with that. All right, so next one.
All right. Next one is with Marvel's love of going a little bit too far right before a movie drops. Part or all of Sentry's costume will be shown in a Super Bowl trailer.
Uh, they've been really keeping Sentry close to the vest on this one, so um, I am. I'm going to say fiction on that one as well. I think they've been playing close to the vest with Sentry. They've been keeping this whole Bob thing going on. I think that one they're gonna keep until the movie comes out.
I feel like you are going to get at least a flowing cape that you don't see everything on, or you're going to see part of a yellow costume. Like, I don't think you're going to get the whole thing, but I do think that there is going to be a blink and you miss it moment of the costume. Because again, Marvel just likes to, they get to that line and then they go, you know what? Let's just go ahead and put this scene out there.
Yeah, it's one of those where I could see it happening, but I hope they don't. I hope they don't.
Yeah.
So, all right, and your last one.
All right, my last one is Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man will still feature an MCU tie, whether it be a multiverse post-credit or something. I know that they said that they changed it from freshman year to Friendly Neighborhood in order to get it away from the MCU, but I have a feeling they are still going to find a way, either at the end or close to the end, to tie it to the MCU.
So there'll be a post credit scene at the end of Friendly Neighborhood that'll still feature. Um. Yeah, they came out and said it's not going to be tied to really anything at this point. As I said, I could see them this either getting one and done or just maybe two seasons and calling it quits so they can do a different Spider-Man animated series that will be their, like I said, Spider-Man 98 or bring back Spectacular or something like that. I'm 3 for 3 this week. I'm gonna go fiction on all three. Not saying I don't like the creativity. It's just like, yeah, it's hard for me to see that one.
Gosh, shooting them all down.
Sometimes it happens. Sometimes I even write ones that I don't believe in the sense of it's just fun to have a debate.
Yeah.
What about you? You feeling it?
I can see it, and when I originally thought about it, I thought of something a la that a certain scene in Spider-Man 2 when you collect robots and then you get a scene that ties it to something else. So even though the game is over a year old, I still won't spoil that for anyone who hasn't seen or hasn't gone back to listen to you guys talk about it. So other than that, like, I could see something that ties it in there, and it could even be a way to not necessarily tie it to the Spider-Verse movies, but use the Spider-Verse movies to tie it to a jumping off point of Spider-Man 98.
Okay. I like it. So we will post those on Sunday afternoon. So let your voices be heard with that. And let us return to Comic Book Club, issue number 10 of Young Avengers. So we're definitely picking up the 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 idea of like what's really going on with Hulkling, and it definitely gets interesting very quickly with this because he's been basically taken by the Super Skrull. His mother slash not real mother has been killed, and we open with basically Kid Vision playing chess against Jarvis, and we see the Young Avengers show up demanding that they need help.
Yeah, like can you contact somebody, Jarvis? Anybody? Our friend's been kidnapped. Wiccan's mom is freaking out. Teddy's mom has been destroyed. Like everything's gone. We need the Avengers. And Jarvis is just like, yeah, they're not in right now. They're away. They're like, yeah, but can you call them? He's like, it's not that simple. You just don't call the Avengers.
Not how this works. This is how any of this works. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's then they basically say like, all right, Vision's basically just given the idea like, you keep an eye on them, and they're like, well, you were told to keep an eye on us, so just watch us try to find. And so they go, apparently they go recruiting, and they're trying to find another member of the team. And apparently the Avengers have a Avengers fail-safe program, I guess, in case they need to get more superpowered individuals. And they find this individual, Thomas Shepard, who's a speedster. But he's not only fast speed, but he can accelerate and destabilize atomic matter. And I'm like, it's been a bit since I've read this. Oh,
Yeah.
this is when we introduced Tommy.
Yeah. It's like, so that means he can blow stuff up?
Yeah. So, but they neglect to say that he's in prison, and this is like it's just juvie. I like
Yeah.
and Patriot goes just juvie. That is an impressive juvie facility. That looks like maximum security
Yeah,
I've ever seen.
that is no juvie I've ever seen in television or real life. Like this is a full on penitentiary going on here, not only just from the outside aesthetics, but for the security systems that they have within this place. Like this is more than just juvie.
Yeah, apparently he accidentally vaporized his school, according to his attorneys.
Yeah.
So they break him out, and they Thomas says, Tommy, and who the hell are you? And Cassie goes, whoa, you could be like twins. Wait, I know you. You're the Young Avengers. You're the shapeshifter, right? No, he's my boyfriend. But like they're all like, oh my god, these Wiccan and Tommy could be twins. And I like how he says, he's a warlock. He's like, no, warlock's an oathbreaker. I'm a witch.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, now we're getting even more on the nose with this.
He's like that's not a nice term. We don't say that here. It's like, so I'm a witch. Let's get it right.
Yep. And that, they're noticing, say, man, he looks exactly like, and they're not saying it. It's like, yeah, he looks like Pietro. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're trying to be taken down. Tommy is definitely a hothead when it comes to this. And then we kind of flash to Super Skrull trying to give Hulkling his history lesson about where he's coming from. And he says, no, you're a Skrull. And he's like, no, I'm really not. And the Young Avengers come in. They try to break him out. And basically then Super Skrull's taken down by not the Young Avengers, but by who?
By the Kree. The Kree have come in. They've got their war, and it's mentioned earlier that there was an interaction between the Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, and Captain Marvel, who were taken by the Super Skrull, and he took them in order to show his worthiness. And then the King of the Skrulls thought that, hey, he's done all this to try and show that he's better than me and usurp my power. Well, sometime in that moment, a little action took place, and now
Someone
here
had
we
some
are.
action, and when the Kree arrive, kind of think we figured out what action did take place at that
Yeah,
point
the
when the
Kree
Kreese,
army protects their own.
and you are one of us. And so we're starting to see some things that's saying, well, it may have not been Skrull on Skrull action. It may have been Kree on Skrull action, and the only Kree that was involved in that duo is Captain Marvel. Excuse me,
Yeah.
Captain Marvel, and the Skrull Empress might have had some relations to produce this hatchling, as it were.
Yeah. So he is of double royal descent apparently. So
Yeah.
he's got Captain Marvel in him. He's got the Scroll Princess in him. So that makes him a hot commodity among both races who were known to war. So
Yes. So. But yeah, so we will continue our delving into Young Avengers number 11, seeing exactly what the revelations that take place there. So, all right, volume 243 in the books. So, again, we are done with What If. We're now marching towards, got a couple of weeks till your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man come out. So we'll see what news starts dropping in the next week or so. But yeah, so David, tell people how they can follow you.
you can follow me on all socials at the Phantom. I'm active on almost every single one of them. I'm most active still on Twitter as long as it remains at least semi the way it is. For I don't know, we at least have a couple of more weeks until all of that can change. But as of right now, I'm still on Twitter, Instagram, everything else. Also here on the Geekverse Network, co-host a wrestling show called The Gimmick. So at least once a month we pop on there. We talk about all things that's happening in wrestling, do reviews of the major shows, what we think's happening next, and our wrestling draft. So that's where you can find me.
Yep, and you can follow me on Twitter and all the socials at Grisbalga. You catch me also on Saturday afternoons on the Brave and the Boys YouTube channel where we do the weekly buyer's guide, breaking down all the collected editions that are coming out in the upcoming week. And you can also follow this show on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. You can follow Brent on Twitter at BrentTech Prime. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback. DMs are open across the board. Ask questions for us to answer on the show, fact or fictions. Continue to rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate it. As always, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. And we want to thank everyone for joining us live in the chat. And for those of you listening, stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. Well, David, post-credits discussion today. We did not discuss this beforehand, and about towards the end of the show, I was realized, oh my gosh, we didn't discuss what we're going to do for post-credits. So I pivoted to something that is always a good topic to discuss, and it's always a good pivot point at that point. What comics have you been reading lately?
All right. So for me lately, it has been the Ultimate line of comics, the new Ultimate line of comics. I've been really delving into them. Again, I like the Ultimate line. I like the original Ultimate line, even the very short-lived Ultimate Fantastic Four. The very, very short-lived Ultimate Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was a short-lived enough. It's getting an omnibus, so it got enough. It got enough there that you got to run.
considering that Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimate X-Men originals had such huge runs, and then they're like, all right, well, we're gonna do Ultimate Fantastic Four, and then
And I like Ultimate X-Men in the sense of it, but man, there some of those arcs were they were rough.
they were rough. Some of those character choices, the Blob, were very rough. So, but I followed through the entire way, all the way through, because once I'd started it, once I'd gotten that far into it, I just had to continue with it. Another thing, like, I am a huge fan of X-Men, so of course I'm reading the current X-Men run. X-Men is kind of my go-to because at almost any point, even as convoluted as X-Men can get, I feel like I can jump into an X-Men storyline, and within 2 to 3 issues, I pretty much know semi what's going on.
Hmm.
And they also do a good job of explaining in the opening of each book what's going on. So the Ultimate Lines has been good, and then I have been catching up on Venomore because at the time of its release, I was just overwhelmed with the amount of books I was reading, and I was like, all right, this one's going to have to take a wait. And so I've been diving back into Venomore.
Yeah, like it's similar to you, delving into everything Ultimates, Ultimate line. Like we've saying Ultimate Spider-Man's probably the top of that list, followed by probably Ultimates and then Ultimate Black Panther. I've been reading Ultimate X-Men. Just it may not be necessarily for me right now, and that's okay. It doesn't make it bad. It's just not my tempo.
Yeah.
The post Krakoa X Men titles have been meh to forgettable to me, and um, which is what I was kind of worried about in the sense of when you leave that kind of era of X Men and trying to reestablish them at that point. Um, I've enjoyed X Force. I've enjoyed X Men. Some of the X titles. It's just I think they're still trying to find their footing about what where do the X Men stand in the post Krakoa X universe.
Yeah.
With Daredevil, I it has been interesting seeing the post Chip Zdarsky run with Saladin Ahmad and Aaron Cooter. It's it's an interesting new take on kind of where Matt has been and his new kind of lifestyle in the Marvel universe after where Zdarsky had left him, and kind of looking at these deadly sins that are taking over people, and it's interesting. Um, so I'm kind of enjoying just a different direction with Matt. Um, Marvel just as a whole, it's just kind of there. Outside of the Ultimate line, it's there hasn't been too much I've been really enjoying with Marvel. It's like I said, it's been bordering between okay to be like forgettable.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately that's just kind of where it is. I've been more enjoying things that are outside of Marvel when it comes to even the indie lines. As people who have listened to the show, I'm a huge fan of the Massiverse with that Kyle Higgins started from Radiant Black, Rogue Sun, Inferno Girl Red, the Dead Lucky, No One. Like that whole thing has been firing on all cylinders. The Energon universe with Void Rivals, Transformers, and GI Joe has been great. And so, like my comic love is even with DC, the Absolute line and the DC's new initiative, All In, kind of reestablishing their universe. So it's always interesting, kind of looking at what's kind of getting my attention. But Marvel right now, just outside of the Ultimates, just really hasn't been there. So
Yeah. It's been same for me. Like again, I've mentioned I'm a huge fan of Miles Morales. They turned him into a vampire. It's been
wasn't necessarily saying I'm a fan of that idea, but here we are.
it's been an interesting ride with some of their decisions. So I'm hoping that they can right the ships and kind of delve things back. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of X-Men. My only real complaint about X-Men is I feel like at almost any point X-Men has too many books going on.
Yes.
And so, but I also feel like its main title is something that I can dive into, and it will take me 2 or 3 issues whenever I do dive back in, but I can pretty much get the gist of whatever's going on.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of looking to what we've been reading this week. I mean, not this week, but lately at that point. Brent and I had, we typically say like, what are our like top comic book movies rankings for 2024? Were at that point it really just wasn't a great year for comic book movies, and when I kind of looked at the list at that point, I think we all know would probably be on top of both of our lists, and then it'd be a fight for do we really have to rank something at number two? Can we rank like skip a whole bunch of them and put towards at the bottom of what we saw?
Yeah.
So we're not going to really have a list like that this year for 2024. So it just doesn't seem to work out. But stay tuned in the next couple of weeks. We will do our looking at our predictions from 2024 and then building into 2025. We're going to see if Brent's going to be available to come back for that. But if he's not, we'll definitely look at the ideas of that along with seeing if Mr. Snell can make it at that point. Maybe make it a big show, but if not, we'll at least see who got correct versus who got wrecked with their predictions, and then David and I will make our respective predictions for the upcoming year. So check that out, and we will see y'all. Have a good rest of your week and weekend. We will see you all next week for Volume 244. See y'all later. Bye bye.
See ya.